From lazy to productive in 60 minutes. So this may seem like a little bit of clickbait, but it's really not, and I'll explain. But before I explain, I want to share with you when I thought of this title, I did some research, and everything I was finding went to like SMART goals and all of these different things, and it's a bunch of stuff. So, what I'm going to share with you today is something really easy, and it only needs to take 60 minutes or less, even. So I, on a monthly basis, host the R&R Power Hour, which stands for Review and Refocus. And in this last one, Nancy, it was her first time, and she did the review. So what we do is we basically are just reviewing what we've accomplished over the last month. And as she was sharing her celebrations at the end, she said, "Well, I thought I had been lazy, but I really realized I got a lot done." And that is so true so often. I can't tell you how many times people have come into this R&R and they felt like they hadn't gotten anything done, but as they did a review, they found out they actually got some things done. In her case, she had just forgotten all the things she had done. And what was really interesting is a lot of times we forget the things that we get done, but she had felt like she's a writer, and so she's actually an educator and a writer, and she had felt like she had been lazy with her writing, but she really hadn't. She found out she'd done a lot of writing, a lot more than she thought she had, and it was just she she didn't remember because we get so busy going from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, we don't see what has happened. Now, another thing that can happen in these review sessions is you may find that you were busy getting a lot of things done and you did a lot of things done, but you didn't work on the main thing that you really wanted to get done. And that's why a lot of times we feel like we're being lazy because we have this goal or this project or this thing we want to work on, and we don't ever seem to get to it because we're doing all the other life stuff. And so what can happen with these review sessions is if you realize that, now know, and you can set some intentions for the month ahead of where do I want to block some time so that I actually work on the thing that I'm really wanting to work on instead of letting all of life and other people's agendas fill that up. Now, I also wanted to dig into um, a little bit of on the story of lazy. So for her, somewhere in her life, somebody created a story, or she created it, or whatever, about being lazy. So I have a couple stories about lazy. So I remember as a kid that my dad would say that I was lazy if I was trying to carry too many things to the kitchen at one time. So, it's like you got to take the stuff to the kitchen, and you're a little kid and you don't want to do it. So you try and be the what the server at the restaurant, like, how many things can I carry, right? And take into the kitchen. And he said I was being lazy, or that was the lazy man's way. And that was what some story put in his head, but was it lazy, or was I being efficient? Who knows, right? Write the story. How do you want it to be? I think he must have said that to me a lot of other times too, because I remember as I was doing some work, that phrase kept coming up, lazy, and I'm like, where did that get planted? And so I think he planted that. And we need to look, is it really being lazy? Another story, my stepbrother, he had a company that put on events for people and things like that, team, staff, all of that. Big, it was a small company, but they had several employees. And being, he was one of the C-suite people, one of the owners. He had a lot of different things. I guess there was three owners. They had different responsibilities. Anyway, that's beside the point. But he shared with me that a lot of times he would be walking around his office and people would think he wasn't working. Well, he was working. It was all up in here. And as an only child, I grew up, my parents weren't super engaged with me. In terms of us like having these, conversations and things like that. And so I did a lot of stuff up in here. Well, we can plan, strategize. We can create a lot of things. Yes, it does have to get out into the hands or get out into delegation or something like that. But work can be done up here, and it may not look like work from the outside perspective. So I just would encourage you to take a look at some of the stories that you have about laziness and see if they're really true. And I also want to encourage you to do this practice of just reviewing and seeing what you've actually gotten done. You may be more productive than you actually think you are. If you would like to join for future review sessions, these are free co-working sessions that I run. I'll have a link for that down in the bottom. Now, a couple other things that came up in this last one as we were talking at the end is one of the participants realized that while she was fairly self-aware, she didn't think she was very time aware. And I can totally relate to that. And recently I've been looking into some things about ADHD recently with the last couple years. And it makes a lot of sense to me, like things that I've had happening all of my life. Well, one of the symptoms for ADHD people is that they aren't time aware. And so I'm going to put some links in the description for an ADHD channel that I particularly enjoy. And I think a couple of her videos and then a search of her channel related to time things. So if you find that you're not time aware, which could lead you to thinking that you're lazy, you can check into those and see if there's something that's helpful for you. But here's one thing that might be helpful is a lot of times we'll put something on our list of things to do and it's a project. And when I say it's a project, I mean that it's got several steps to it. And each of those steps may take more than a half an hour to accomplish. And so one thing that can be helpful is to break things down into smaller steps. Even in, like if you're in business and an entrepreneur and say you're doing email marketing, you want to send out an email. Well, first you have to draft the email. You may have to look for links or pictures or something like that to go into the email. Then you need to proofread the email, and then you need to schedule it, and then, right? So there's these different steps. So we may not be allotting enough time on our schedule to accomplish the thing. We may just need to break it down. So I had a coach one time recommend that to take anything that you're trying to accomplish and break it down, and each step or each thing that you want to accomplish needs to be able to be done in a 30-minute chunk. If it can't be done in a 30-minute chunk, it needs to be broken down smaller, or you need just to allot to yourself time to work on the bigger things. So something might take you 2, 3, 4, 10, 30-minute chunks to get it done. So your goal in that case would be just to do 30 minutes on this particular project, right? A work session on that project. And then I think, let me just double check. I think this is the last, the last thing that we discovered in that call was one of the gals was wanting to do better with her health. She had a health goal, and she was kind of discouraged about it. In her particular case, she'd had a very complex hip replacement, and I think she was probably hoping to be further along in the process than she was. And what happens with something like that, or anything that you might be working on, a business, a side hustle, a dream trip, whatever the thing is that you're working on, or the goal that you have or where you want to be, is we're focusing on the end result and where we are now, and we're focusing on the gap. We're looking at, I'm here now, I want this out here. Oh man, that gap is so big. And we focus on that, and it kind of is discouraging. And that can make us feel like we're lazy, right? Because we haven't gotten there yet. So what we encouraged for her to do, and within her circumstance, was to focus on the daily wins, especially because this is a long process, right? First healing from the hip replacement, and then a bunch of physical therapy, and then building up your stamina and muscles and all of these other things moving forward. And it helps sometimes to have it be visual. And so we recommended either having a piece of paper or using those markers that you can use on mirrors to write, even write on the bathroom mirror, and write, daily health wins. Right? So what's something I did today to improve my health? Write that down. And then each day that you do that, you're telling your brain that this is important, and you're focusing on your wins towards the better health. You're focusing on the steps from here towards where you are. Instead of looking at the gap, you're just looking at the next step, and you're seeing the wins. And as you get each step, you're going to get closer to that top. So I hope you found these things helpful, and that as you're listening to them, that you're feeling maybe a little less lazy. When you do your review, that you will find you too have gotten a lot more done than you thought you did. And maybe you just need to make an adjustment. If this is your first time here, my name is Valerie Pugsley. I help entrepreneurs and side hustlers have more confidence, focus, and momentum. And if you'd like to join us for the next review and Refocus Power Hour, then there is a link in the description below to join us. It's free. Love to have you as you move forward in your goals, your business, or your side hustle. Until next week.